It is a very good afternoon. It is Niall Boylan, which you're right, well, certainly for the next hour or so. Now, once again, thank you to everybody. As you know, yesterday's show was recorded. I did actually record the bit at the start, obviously, to make my announcement that I'm running for Europe as an EU candidate. And I would like to, obviously, everyone to vote for me. But the reason I wasn't here yesterday, because we had our official launch yesterday outside the Dáil and in Buswell's Hotel with TDs Michael Fitzmaurice, Richard O'Donoghue and Michael Collins from Independent Ireland. Thank you to everybody, by the way, who turned up for the launch yesterday. We had loads of people. I was a little bit overwhelmed by the whole thing. And can I just say that, you know, with the amount of coverage that we have got over the last 3 or 4 days and the fact that we're trending on Twitter for the last 4 days as well, which I have never seen in 14 years of working on radio, I'm completely overwhelmed. I expected, because I know I'm like Marmite. I know some people don't like me, and that's okay, by the way. If you don't like some of my opinions, that's fine too. I'm okay with that. We can talk about things. Isn't that what democracy is all about? That we can sit down, be it in the Dáil or the European Parliament, or we can sit down in a room or on a radio station or whatever it happens to be and chat about things and disagree on things and then come to some sort of compromise between us all. That's what democracy and real democracy is in this country. But the point is that I was looking on social media over the last, and I should really stay away from it, but I was looking at social media over the last 3 or 4 days, and the comments I expected to be, 50% of people saying, great, Niall, well done, we'll vote for you, and 50% saying you're an asshole. But here's the thing, 95% of the comments have been very positive, and that completely overwhelmed me. You're always going to get the 5%. The one comment I really loved, by the way, was the guy who put up a thing, said he would never vote for me. And by the way, was there any possibility of having my election posters when I'm finished with them so he can scare the crows out of the fields? I thought that was an interesting comment. There's some funny ones up there. But again, I will be talking to you more about it. It's a 6-week campaign. It's a long campaign to some degree, 6 weeks of your life. And for those, by the way, who were all panicky, including the journalists who thought they were great by leaking the story on Monday after I'd signed the register with the election officer, saying, Niall Boylan is running for Europe. He's still on the radio. We had already arranged for the official launch to be Tuesday morning. I wasn't going to go on the radio, apart be interviewed by Gareth O'Callaghan on Tuesday night. That was the original plan. They scuppered my plan by leaking it quicker than it actually did. So yes, I was on the radio on Monday, but we didn't talk about politics. I wasn't biased. We didn't talk about anything relating to politics or the government. There were 3 social dilemma topics that we covered in an interview with some woman about wellness. So there's no way I could be accused of anything, because according to the regulations by Commissioner Mann and the BAI, it's up to each individual radio station to decide what they need to do in relation to programming when they have a member of staff or somebody contracts them who is running for European elections or for local elections or general elections for that matter. For example, if you were a newsreader or something like that, it would be difficult for you not to be biased. If you're a talk show host, it would be difficult not to be biased. But if you're doing a show called Gardener's World, well, I'm pretty sure you could probably stay on the air. Now, there is a whole question around that particular piece of legislation or that guideline from the Broadcasting Authority and Commissioner Mann that essentially denies me a right to earn a living. Now, that's why I still have the podcast, because I can still do my podcast daily, because this is my own business. But because it's a radio station which is governed and licensed under the Broadcasting Authority rules, I must give up that job. And it's up to my employers to be responsible in that situation and to make sure I give up that job. So thankfully, my employers were very understanding, very supportive of me, and allowed me out of a contract, because I am in the contract with the radio station. So they allowed me out of that contract. And essentially, I had to leave. It's not a temporary break, or it's not a 6-week holiday or anything like that. I had to leave my job. I've taken a huge risk. Some of you might think I'm mad, but I've discussed it with my wife and family, and I've taken a huge risk. And yes, I'll be eating chips and beans by the end of the month because I'll have no pay. But I'm taking an absolutely huge risk. I'm giving up a 30-year career because I think I could do more to help people. So for that matter, I will tell you a little bit more about it as we go on over the next 6 weeks. There'll be a lot more videos and promotional videos. But thank you very much to everybody who has been so supportive over the last 3 or 4 days. Thank you so much. And I genuinely really mean that. And thank you to everybody who supported me for 30 years on radio, by the way. I worked it out, 250,000 callers on the air on radio. And every single one of them I listened to. Some of them are joyously happy. Some of them are angry. Some of them are frustrated. And some of them told me stories. Some of them were very serious stories. But most of them had one thing in common. They wanted someone to talk to. They wanted an empathetic ear. And I think I gave them that. But the problem I always had was when I talk to somebody, for example, who doesn't have the money to put food on the table because of the decisions that are being made by government, or they don't have somewhere to live, there's nothing more that I can do than be an empathetic ear when I'm on radio. I can say I'm sorry to hear that and hopefully things get better. but I can't be part of the decision making that changes their lives. Now I can be part of that decision making. I feel I can be part of that decision making. I'm at that time in my life where I want to be part of that decision making that can make a change in their lives. A change in their lives for young people to be able to afford a house. A change in their lives for the cost of living to come down again, or at least the salaries to go up to match it. A change in their lives if they have a small business. They don't want to close down because the government are not supporting businesses properly in Ireland. A change in their lives because they're concerned about a reckless immigration policy and where we'll stand in 50 years. A change in their lives because they believe we're losing our sovereignty, we're losing the ability to protect our borders. A change in our lives for many different reasons. But I want to be the person in Europe because, as we know, 75% of our legislation comes from European directives. So I want to be there when all those decisions are made. I don't want to be one of those woke MEPs that we currently have at the moment who are so far to the left we can't see them anymore, who travel over to Brussels for 4.5 years after you elect them and you never see them again until about 6 months before the election, and they start cutting ribbons to open supermarkets just so you see their faces so they can get re-elected. And they come out with nonsense suggesting that it's a negative thing to talk about sovereignty and protecting borders. I don't want to be one of those people. I want to not only be a European MEP, I want to be your reporter in Europe. So I will continue this podcast. Obviously, the schedule will change slightly because obviously I will have to spend a lot of time doing the job that you're voting me to do. But in saying that, I will continue to do this podcast. I will report back to the people every single week, telling them what plenaries I was at, what debates I was at, what we're voting for, and how they feel I should vote. I will tell them how I feel we should vote, but I'll listen to their input as well and decide based on that how we should vote. I don't want Ireland to lose any more sovereignty. We've already lost enough control over our laws in this country. We don't want to lose any more. Of course, the EU Migration Pact was the latest thing that we lost in this country. And once we opt into that, which we have, by the way, but once we legislate for it, there's no turning back. We can't change it. So I want to be part of that so we don't make those same mistakes again. When it comes to climate policy, when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to everything, I don't want to be part of making the wrong decisions. I want to make the right decisions based on what the people of Ireland want and not what the politicians want. So on that note, I'm asking you to vote for me. I was so surprised, by the way, that Boyle Sports, I came in at evens, which I believe, I know nothing about gambling and betting, and I know Boyle Sports are the only ones I believe that take bets on political elections. But I was kind of surprised to see I came in at evens. And somebody who's into their betting said, Jesus, no, that's really good. And I go, I don't know, maybe I should put a bet on myself. Anyway, listen, thank you to everybody for all your support. Now, I do want to be fair on the podcast because there are other candidates running for Europe. There are other candidates for different parties running for local elections. And the podcast is here for everybody, not just for me. It's here for everybody. So I do want to be fair to other people. So today's question, by the way, is about change. And Ireland has gone through a very strange phase over the last 5 years. And that was even before the 5 years, actually, when we looked at the last general election. We've seen a lot of people voting for Sinn Féin, and they voted for Sinn Féin because they wanted change. I don't think they'll get that same change from Sinn Féin anymore because they're now the party of U-turns. But who are they going to vote for now? They're looking at independents. They're looking at newer parties like Independent Ireland, or indeed Aontú, or the Irish Freedom Party, or many other parties. They're looking at many other independent parties for change. But are they right? And will it actually make a change? That's what we're asking today. Do you believe that you really have, or do we really have democracy? When it comes to making a change in Ireland, do you believe your vote actually counts? So the question that basically today is, does voting for change in an election really make a difference? So let me know what you think. Some people will say, no, it doesn't, because the last time we voted for change, we got exactly the same thing again, a coalition of the same people we didn't really vote for. So let me know what you think. The number, as usual, is 085 122 55. That's 085 122 55. Do you believe voting for change makes a difference? Now, let me go, if I can, first to Michelle Smith, and she's running as an MEP for Midlands Northwest region. Best of luck to you, Michelle, by the way.
Thanks a million, Niall. How am I meant to follow that? You're a complete inspiration, aren't you?
Well, not really, no. I try my best, Michelle. I try my best. Yeah. But look, we're both aiming for the same thing. We both want to see change. We both want to be part of the answer and not part of the problem. You know what I mean? So I suppose the first thing is, what made you want to run, by the way?
Well, I suppose I've been speaking up for a long time, and my background is in finance. And I am fighting for my clients. I'm fighting for the people of this country for a long time. And in recent months, I'm doing a record number of fees payment plans for businesses around the west of Ireland and in the south. I have clients down in Dublin and Cork as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just really seeing a massive impact of the government decisions that's happening. And as you said, 75% of these laws and regulations are coming from Europe. And our current MEPs are over there on a holiday, in my opinion.
Well, all you got to do is look at the figures online of how many debates they actually attend. Now, mind you, there are one or two of them.
My fault for
there's one or two.
That, but anyway,
I was going to say there's one or two of them. I'd pay them to stay away from the debates. To be honest with you, but in saying that, yes, they, as far as I can see, they don't seem to be doing their job.
No, and there was a post put up there on one of their social media that we can't allow extremists into Ireland. Now, I'm known for standing up here in Ballinrobe and helping other communities who are facing people coming in on buses that they're absolutely petrified. But I'm not an extremist and I'm not a far right. I'm a business owner, but I have a huge heart. And I've been going around on the canvas on my own, self-funded, and genuinely talking to people. And I've been doing this for years. And if I explained this to someone in layman's terms the other day. It's like giving a child €10 at the end of the week and they can't wait to spend it.
Yeah.
This is what the government are doing here. They're just, figuring out how to waste all the taxpayers' money, like €6 billion.
In the wrong places, unfortunately, we're wasting
in the wrong place. Yeah, €6 billion was raised from the introduction of carbon tax in 2010. Last year, they spent 2.14 billion alone in Ukrainian funds and IPAS centres. Then we're surrounded by water, and only 2% of the resources of water are put into hydropower. There's research done there for aquaponics that could make the country really sustainable, and the investment's not happening, the fight's not happening. Like, Irish people have a fantastic business ethic and work ethic, and I'm representing the people who are working their bums off 7 days a week just to keep a roof over their heads. Like, I have people that I love getting evicted here, and I can't get them a house because rents have doubled in the last 2 years. And the TDs in the Dáil, half of them are landlords, and the Seanad, they voted for the increase of rents and to lift the eviction ban just coming out of a pandemic. And they messed up with that as well, giving teenagers in the country that might have been working €8 or 8 hours a week up to €350 straight away. So that generation were laughing for 6 months. There's decisions being made by unqualified people, and it has to stop. It genuinely has to stop. And
but does it matter, Michelle? Sorry for interrupting you, but we seen 5 years ago the population of the country voting for Sinn Féin. Well, the vast majority of the population voting for Sinn Féin because they want to change, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't believe that's going to be the way it works this time because Sinn Féin are now the party of U-turns. But even though they voted for change, now I know Sinn Féin didn't run enough candidates. I don't know whether that was intentional or not. We still ended up with the same formation of government. We still ended up with the people that, we really didn't want there, including the Greens, who really nobody wanted there. They should never be allowed inside the building, right? So we've seen all that happen. So does voting for change really make a difference? Because let's say we all vote for independence tomorrow, for example. What power do they really have, apart from Europe? Let's say in the local elections, what power do they really have? Because unfortunately, with a lot of the independents, they all disagree with each other too.
Yeah. And you're 100% right. It's going to have to take like-minded people to come together and work together and stop the mudslinging. Like, at the moment, yes, it's an election and we're all out looking for number one votes, but they have to look at it logically. We need positive change in this country. And the only party that stood up against the referendum in the Dáil was a one-party TD, was Peadar Tóibín.
No, in fairness, to be fair, Independent Ireland did as well. So,
and Independent Ireland as well. Michael Collins, Richard O'Donoghue, the Smart, Maddie McGrath, Carol Nolan. But as a party at the time, and you're thinking,
I know Peadar was great. Peadar was amazing during the referendum. He really was.
Yeah, and to answer your question, I think a lot of people now have woken up, and they're sick of being labelled for speaking up. But what I have learned around Mayo especially, you have huge support, but people are frightened. They're frightened to say, anything out of line in case they're labelled with different names. And they're working their absolute backsides off here, and they're getting nothing back. Like, there's a grant here at the moment, and the closing date is in May, to allow people who are paying rates up to €5,000. And no one is claiming it because it hasn't been advertised.
Well, then they're not
And,
going to claim
you know,
it if it hasn't been advertised, are they, really?
Yeah, so they've only had, 20% take-up. And businesses don't really realise around here if they're paying rates, it's a simple application. Like the mortgage interest tax credit that was introduced, your mortgage interest has to nearly double for you to get the full €1,200. So,
I know you understand all of that a lot better than most people do, and that's why you're a tax rebate specialist apart from anything else, and you've done a lot of great work for people, Michelle. But stay with me, Michelle, because I want to go to Malachy Steenson too, the enemy.
We're all friends here now.
We're all friends in business. Malachy Steenson, of course, is running in the local elections and also running as an MEP candidate for Dublin as well. Malachy, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Niall.
And the best of luck to you.
Michelle.
Best of luck to you,
Michelle the other day.
Thanks very much,
the best of luck to you, Niall, as well, although not as good luck as I wish myself, obviously.
Obviously. Well, okay, so Malachy, firstly, let me ask you why you decided to run as an independent candidate for local election and also as well, for as a European MEP. So why did you decide to run?
Well, firstly, I decided to run because, the elections are the only way that we can actually bring about change other than some kind of violent revolution, which we're not in the space for. No, I first stood in elections in 2009. I think the last time I stood down was 2014. And I had no intention at that stage of standing for electoral politics again.
Were you disappointed what happened at that time?
I was disappointed, and it was partly that, the message that I was pushing, which is the very same message that I'm pushing now. And I looked back on some election leaflets from 2014, and I was saying, with the exception of the immigration issue, which wasn't a big issue at that time, the very same things.
The housing,
still looking for a better
crisis,
health service, still looking for housing, still looking. And I was just looking at there's the ready mix site on East Wall Road, just as a small example. The state bought that in 2009 for 26 million. The Docklands Authority bought it. Now, the Docklands Authority ended up being an extension of Anglo-Irish Bank and collapsed eventually. Planning permission was given finally 2 years ago for that, to build social housing on it. Now it's being used as for dumping the spoil from this nonsensical cycle lane that they're putting in, and they're spending over 80 million on.
That's a disaster. I was driving up there yesterday, and I swear to God, I can't figure out how it's taking so long to do that stretch of road. It's not that big. If that was any other European city or country, it would be done a lot quicker. They'd be working through the night to do it.
They don't. They don't even work at weekends on it. That started off, the initial cost was something like 15 or 16 million. By the time they started the job, it went up to 60 odd million. Now it's gone to 80 million. Now, I've just moved back to the ready mix site for a second. Within 100 yards either side of that, to the left, there are 2 apartment blocks are being built, and to the right, 3 apartment blocks are being built. And those are 15 stories high, and those 3 are almost finished. The other 2 are finished within a space of 2 years. So the private sector can do what the state is not doing. And when I heard O'Brien talking about yesterday, we're going to build 50,000 houses or whatever number they pick out of the air. Darragh O'Brien is not going to build one house, nor lay one brick. He's talking about the private sector picking up the job that the public sector should be doing. When we were poor and stupid in this country, as they told us, we were able to build Finglas, Ballymun.
Sean Lamass, of course, was the man responsible for that, yeah.
Well, many of those estates were built before Lamass.
Yeah.
If you look at immediately after the bombings on North Strand, again, North Strand is the only area that has been bombed by the Germans.
But that was I don't know the full story there. But I remember somebody talking to me.
We built Cabra.
But wasn't that bombing? It was by mistake. They thought they were. It was late at night, and they thought we were.
Well, they thought they were over Liverpool.
Yeah, that's right. They bombed Dublin instead, unfortunately. But Malachy, I don't. I don't want to go into the too many because I don't have the time to go into every little detail, right? But in relation to the change, you say you can make change. I say I can make change. Michelle wants to make change. We all want to make change. But when people go and they vote for you or me or Michelle or whatever it happens to be, does change really happen? Because we've seen this 5 years ago where people voted for change. Now, it was Sinn Féin at the time. I don't think it'll be Sinn Féin the next time around. But it was Sinn Féin at the time. And yet we ended up with the same individuals back in government again on the fifth and the sixth count, and then they form a government, a coalition, with, the Green Party, who should never be allowed inside the building. So realistically, does change really happen?
Well, firstly, people have no difficulty people being elected on later counts, because if we didn't have PR and proportional representation, we would have a uni-party government forever. Okay. Now we are on the verge of stripping that away. Right? We would have a uni-party government forever.
Sorry, go ahead.
What we have, for instance, and I hate the Greens and everything they stand for, but they're doing what it says on the tin. I mean, the Greens have no compunction and no difficulty in saying we want to destroy this country for everybody. And that's what they're doing, and that's what our supporters want. They want us in sackcloth and ashes walking down the motorway, in your woolly jumper to go home and light the fire. They're not allowed to light anymore. But what change can we bring? If we have enough of a mass in the European Parliament, then we can bring about change. Me and you going on our own won't bring that change. But what is happening right across Europe is that there are people of like mind to us who say we have enough of this woke liberal agenda, we've enough of this gender politics, we've enough of this identity politics, we've enough of this climate change rubbish, where for some reason if I pay 20 cents more for a litre of diesel to drive from Dundalk to Dublin, I'm somehow protecting the planet.
Well, it's not only that. I see now that the latest suggestions now is climate change is for the rich, right? Because they're now suggesting that an increased taxation on people who go over a certain amount of air miles per year. So in other words, once you're willing to pay for those extra air miles, sheer grand, the planet won't end. You know what I mean? So in other words, climate change now is just for the rich. Us poor peasants won't be able to go on holidays soon, but the rich people will, because they can afford the extra taxes for the flights. I mean, have you ever heard that so ridiculous in your life? That's just virtue signalling. Is outrageous.
Well, I'll tell you. Well, the next ridiculous thing that they're doing, and I've seen something this morning on this, that they want to get rid of green diesel before the next election, before the governmental elections.
Why would you even do that?
Because these people are warped. These people have no sense. I'm convinced now, Niall, that the political class and the NGO class hate this country. They actually hate humanity, and they hate society. And, when we get to the European Parliament, there will be people of like mind, and we need to undo everything that has been done in that Parliament for the past 20 years almost. We need to go back to what we joined in the 1970s.
Which was a community. Which was a community. And by the way, these people who, say, are you anti-EU? Not. I'm certainly not anti-EU. The EU originally was a community. It was meant to be a group of countries coming together to assist and help each other. But that's not what it is now. It's turned into this kind of woke dictatorship.
No, I'm an Irish European.
Yep.
I just made it. Sorry.
Go on ahead.
I'm an Irish European. I'm not a European. I believe in this nation, and in all of the nations of Europe should be sovereign, independent states who cooperate on matters of mutual benefit. There is nothing of benefit to us coming out of the European Union currently. We are net contributors to it. We are paying, just to take even another example, and when you look at what passes for government in this state, when you look at, somebody like Helen McEntee, how in God's name, or Simple Simon, have these people reached the levels of power and influence that they have?
Well, I think that was blatantly obvious the other day, how they've lost control. And Michael McNamara, who I have to say is genius when he comes up with his figures and his questions, because he is a former barrister, of course, when he comes out with those things. And I have to say, he really, really embarrassed her, because she hadn't a clue. And her department don't have a clue what's going on. But sorry, Michelle, you want to say something quickly there? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it's very important when you say where this is coming from and the power. This is all, there's a global integration program, it's global sustainability for 2030. And everything that's happening at the moment in this country is all linked to this document. And it was first signed into by the 194 member states back in 2015. So it brings in climate change. It brings in we had a referendum to change our constitution, because it was named durable relationships, was named intimate citizenship in the documentation. They want to change the health and the way people are named around the country. But they're trying to bring in an education into the school as well. So this is a 2015 agenda that has to be implemented. And the MEPs that were there, they did not communicate any of this to the people here. So when it trickles down into Dáil Éireann, they are EU puppets on strings.
Well, the problem is that most of the directives don't trickle down into the Dáil for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah. So when once that 3 or 4 years passes, we're in a situation when, what happened there? And they're going, well, we voted for this 4 years ago. But look, it's all changed now. Oh, it doesn't matter. We voted for it anyway. Anyway, but look, I unfortunately, I'm very limited for time. Michelle, thank you very much indeed. Michelle is running as an MEP for Midlands North West region. Listen, Michelle, thank you. And you're welcome to come on the show anytime.
Thanks, Melina. And best of luck to you. I said it to your producer. I jumped from the top of my voice when it was announced. So, you have people behind you and you talk sense, and that's what we need.
Malachy, stay with me for a second. Let me go to Nuala. Nuala, hi, how are you?
I'm not too bad at all now.
Good. Nuala, who can I ask you who you'll vote for? So in the local elections or in the European MEP elections, who will you be voting for?
Well, in the local elections now, I belong to a residents' association, and I would probably be lean towards those who would answer emails and who would have followed up issues that we would have, because I realise that, local councillors have very little power at all, because it's all caught up with the CEO or the former city manager, to change that.
When you say they have very little power, they're the ones who will fight for the finances for the local parishes. So their job is very important.
It is very important, but because a lot of all the different things they have to do all have to go through the central, like these transport associations or all. I think to pass anything, even the city plan, has to be put forward to about 45 different NGOs, not NGOs, government bodies.
Bureaucracy, yes, it's bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So, they have to okay everything, and by the time, and then it goes out to public consultation, and public consultation is a bit of a joke because they've already decided, well, they can't do this and they can't do that, and the funding has to come this way or that way. So it ends up just exactly as they want it to end up. And it doesn't matter what the public say,
Well, we've seen that recently, for example, with a football pitch. They wanted up in James's Street. And I don't know how long it's taken. Now, thankfully, I think they've now just got the green light. We were talking to somebody about it on the air going back about 3 weeks ago on the radio. And it took them years just to get a green light for a football pitch for the local lads in the local community. And it's ridiculous. But in saying that, so who are you voting for? Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin, local independents? Who are you voting for?
I'd have to admit there's a few Fine Gael fellas that have followed up everything we wanted to follow up.
Okay.
Now, there's others as well who might answer our email, but I would kind of go on a if a person is some way kind or nice or, treats you as a person and not like somebody that they're shaking your hands and looking over their shoulder to see is there anybody more important to shake hands with. I hate that kind of old thing. Yeah. And that goes on all the time.
Yeah.
You want somebody that sees you as a person. Or if you answered the door. Because I remember years ago somebody answering the door to some politicians at the door out Connemara somewhere. And they were as rude, like, do you vote? They were asking. And they're kind of in a way that was kind of arrogant. So he said, gee, you wouldn't go them give them a vote anyway.
Okay.
But when it comes to the MEPs, because I did a module in EU law and I voted twice against the Lisbon Treaty, so I really feel that it's gone to a stage where it kind of takes over the sovereignty of every state, and they're using the climate change to give money to all different companies. It's kind of social welfare for the corporations and all the rest. They will get funding to put up windmills out in Connemara and this, that, and the other, and then we're not getting anything benefit at all from it.
And who you vote for? I don't know who's running in your area because I don't know where you're from. You're in Galway. You're in Galway. Ciara Malooly and a couple of others out there. Maria Walsh, and isn't she running out there as well? So who would you be voting for in the Europeans?
Well, I won't be voting for any careerists, and I think I won't go. I won't go party. I think I will see what I don't know if Michael Fitzmaurice is running. Is he?
Well, no, Michael isn't running, but Ciara Malooly be running for Independent Ireland out there.
Yeah. I think
the former RTE presenter, newsreader. reporter.
Yeah, it's PR. So the thing is important when a person votes, that they vote down along the one way. If you're going to go independent, go independent. If you're going to go otherwise, because then you see they benefit from each other. Where, like, every vote counts when it comes to PR.
Yeah, I mean, well, hang on for a second. Malachy, do you believe independents, for example, when it comes to particularly local elections rather than the UUs, do you think independents have any power? Because people say, oh, I'm going to vote for independents. And I can see a lot of people this year voting for independents because they're sick of the government. But in saying that, what's the point in voting for loads and loads of independents who all have different views, who might, have commonalities on certain things, be it immigration, but on everything else they have differing views? What's the point, Malachy? That doesn't work, does it?
Well, firstly, we need to totally reform local government and actually give local government back some power so they can actually deal with the issues that come up, rather than what we've done now, which is to centralise everything into central government.
Yeah, get rid of the bureaucracy that Niall is talking about,
No, in these elections, the local and European elections, there are two sides. And that is all. All of the other issues are relate to where you stand on this one position. Whether you believe in this nation, whether you believe that this country should be sovereign and independent, or you don't. And if you believe in the sovereignty of this nation,
but we're not. Yeah, but Malachy, hold on. With the greatest respect, we're not.
We'll be opposed.
Okay, but hold on. We're never going to be sovereign and independent because we're part of Europe.
No, you see, that's a defeatist attitude.
No, it's not. No, it's not a defeatist attitude. We have to work with what we have. So, in other words, I agree we shouldn't be handing over our sovereignty and we shouldn't be handing over as much as we possibly can. But a lot of that's already been handed over. So it's up to us, to make sure no more of it is handed over.
No, it's up to us, Niall, not alone to make sure that there's no more sovereignty handed over, but to take back the sovereignty that has already been ceded. We didn't create this republic, in part, in order to give away sovereignty after 50 years, which is what the political class done. And we need to take that sovereignty back. We need to totally renegotiate our position with the European Union. And you can see the political and NGO class here want to bring us closer and closer into a European military alliance. They want us to be involved in NATO. They want to do everything.
I did say that to the Irish Independent yesterday. She asked me, should we be part of NATO? I said, absolutely not, but I can tell you we will.
What we should be doing as an independent, neutral state is being a voice for peace and a voice for neutrality. We should be saying, both in relation to Ukraine and to Israel, that this island is available, just as Oslo was previously, to foster and encourage peace talks between all
Absolutely.
sides.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's the only way, and if you look back through history, it's the only way that wars have ever ended, is when people come together and talk. And people class that sometimes as surrender. It's not surrender. It's saving lives. Stay there, Malachy. Let me go to David. David, hi, how are you?
Niall, hi, congratulations. Great decision. Well done, sir.
Thank you. Although you'll miss me on the radio, David.
Sorry?
You'll miss me on the radio.
We'll miss you on that, but hopefully you'll still be your podcast, and we'll have a sensible head in Brussels. Although it has to be said, I have my comment to you would be the MPs in Brussels, the MEPs in Brussels, have no real power whatsoever. It's a talking shop.
But that's a defeatist attitude, isn't it? Because the reason they have no power currently at the moment is because they're all the bloody same, and they're all singing from the same hymn sheet. But David, look at Europe right now. Look at the change. Everything that comes from Europe comes down to a vote. Now we've seen that. We'll take the EU Migration Pact for example. That wasn't a landslide. When it comes to Ireland, I'm talking about Ireland in particular at the moment. That wasn't a landslide by any stretch of the imagination. Correct. I mean, so if we had a few more MEPs in there that weren't as woke and liberal and left as we possibly have there at the moment, which I think is going to happen this year, you're going to see a huge shift this year in the European MEPs that are voted across Europe, not just in Ireland. And that vote would have changed. I think there was only something like 30 votes in the difference. But all of our MEPs, with the exception of 2 who voted no for a different reason, by the way, and 1 who didn't show up, voted in favour of it. So that's something, that would have been a change. So if we vote for the right people in Europe, that EU Migration Pact wouldn't be discussed right now in the Dáil, because we would be opted out of it. Do you understand the point I'm making?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
So Dean, what I'm saying is, Dean, forget about everything else that you're talking about. I'm not saying ignore it, right? But deal with what we have, and what we have is what we have to work with for now, until we can make bigger changes. And the more people that we get in there on our side, so to speak, the more we can make changes.
No, you're absolutely right. From little acorns, it's exactly where you're going from. No, it's brilliant. No, go for it, sir.
But let me ask you how you're voting. Firstly, let's say the local elections. Will you be voting for parties? Will you be voting for independents?
Definitely not. No. It's if you Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, you get the same. I've been voting independent for some years, and I will continue.
Anybody in particular? Do you want to tell us who you're voting for, or give us a name?
I can't remember the name.
Okay.
It's basically I looked down the list and I put them on the PR form 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever it is. Which I pick them on their policies. Which group I prefer.
And does it concern you when you're voting for, locals and they're not part of a party and they're all independents, and a lot of these will go on then to run for election in the general election as well for TDs. Does it concern you that, when you're voting for independents, that they all come from, different points of view and never really collaborate, so you generally don't get very much power out of it? Okay, they can shout and roar in the Dáil,
Well, I think good ideas, whether you take the scientific attitude, that there is only, you might have 5 million scientists saying X and one saying Y, and it is always the one saying Y who is generally correct, and they're always the ones that win the Nobel Prize. So the fact that you actually support the person who's right, it might not give you it might be sort of. You might not get that in as a decision to go forward with, but at least you're on the right side of history going forward, if you get my drift.
No, I do. Malachy, does it make you feel good when you hear a lot of people saying that they're looking at independence? This time round, a lot of people are looking at independence. Does that make things seem any better?
Well, I mean, it gives me hope that this time around that there will be real and serious change. But it's not about me personally. I mean, I'm not doing this because I want to be an MEP. I'm doing this because I believe that we need to create a better society for my children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and that we need to leave this country in a better state than when we came into it. And, it's not about me personally or any of the other individuals around the country who are running on a nationalist ticket. It's about creating a better society. We just happen to be the individuals who are best placed at this point in time to try and achieve that objective. And, when we started this and I'm campaigning all my life on all of the different issues, I've been involved in every referendum and every campaign since I was a child. And there is a wind of change. There is a belief now that people are sick and tired of what passes for politics in this country. And everything that we have said.
Oh, are you there? Oh, we've lost Malachy there for some reason. Sorry, I'll try and get him back. Lewis, hi, how are you?
Hi, Niall, how are you?
How you doing? I lost Malachy's line there, but I actually, no, I don't think we need to get him back, because I think I know where he was going there. Basically, what he was going to say was everything we have said has happened, and essentially the only way for change is independent. And thank you to Malachy Steenson, by the way, he's running in the election. Sorry, Lewis, go ahead.
No, I have to be honest, I miss you from Classic Hits from Late Night Live.
Sorry, Lewis, I'm so sorry.
And to be honest, now I'm going to be voting for you in the European Parliament election. I'm going to be voting you in.
Thank you very much indeed, Lewis, and I appreciate that.
Because you deserve it, Niall, because I agree with your views of the way this government are treating every single one of us. They aren't listening to us, and I think you're going to listen to us, Niall.
And who else would you normally vote for? Sorry, Lewis, have you voted before? You have, obviously. I don't know what age you are. Yeah. Okay. Who did you vote for in the last elections? Can you remember?
I didn't really vote in any elections. I just voted last year for the yes no, but I voted no to it.
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone else did. Everyone else voted.
And do you believe democracy works? Do you believe that when people vote for change, they actually get change? Do you believe it works generally?
I do, because I think with you being in it, you will be campaigning and for everyone, everyone's rights and everyone's changes, getting government to listen to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
and to your listeners as well. And I think, Niall, you're going to come out really true to yourself, and you're going to probably become Taoiseach, I think.
Oh.
On the process.
I'd like that someday, Lewis. Maybe I don't know. Maybe give it another 5 years, and I might be the Taoiseach of the country. You never know.
I think you're going to become Taoiseach 100%. If I'd put money on it, I'd back 100 quid on you being Taoiseach.
Lewis, listen, thank you very much indeed for your confidence, and I really, really appreciate it.
I just want to let you know something, that I know, like, the way that you like doing radio, and there's a gig going on Liffey Sound in 96.4 FM if you'd like it.
You know what, Lewis? In 6 weeks' time, if I don't win and I don't get elected, you never know. I could come knocking on your door, Lewis, looking for the gig in Liffey Sound.
Just take my PR gig. Like,
do you do a gig there? Do you? Are you? Yeah.
I do. I do a show there. I do a 2-hour show. I play loads of 80s and 90s. Okay. I play like of a bit of Gary Glitter in there, and a bit of like other people like in there play.
Right.
Like I play Glitter, I play like loads. I play Frankly Goes to Hollywood, Relax. I play loads in there.
Play all the great 80s music and the great 90s music. Lewis, it's been lovely talking to you. Listen, thank you very much indeed, and I appreciate your confidence in me. Let me go to Melissa. Melissa, hi, how are you?
Hi, Niall. First and foremost, congratulations on your stand.
Thank you very much indeed.
Wishing you the best of luck from the Southeast. I am general election candidate, independent nationalist here in Waterford, and
good luck to you.
Local election. Thank you very much. My fifth election now. I have been a former Kilkenny councillor. I have flown out to Brussels on delegations in 2014, 2015, and saw stuff there that I realised that MEPs out there were not bringing back to the Irish people. So I saw that firsthand from Sinn Féin. Literally, don't tell the people at home what's going on here. Without a doubt, I was witness to that personally, and went independent in 2016 to 2019, ran in the by-election for McWallis's seat when I heard about, as you said, what they're making changes over there. And, you know, the wave comes to us about 3 years later. When I heard about the sex education, I put myself forward for the by-election in Wexford on the illegal immigration. At that time, I was screamed down on live.
Yeah.
You know, the minute I mentioned illegal immigration, which there was a particular week, a whole truckload, and we had illegal migrants running around South Kilkenny and the guards running after them in the fields. And I was screamed off the radio by People for Profit, Sinn Féin. And
that doesn't surprise me.
But that was in 2019. That recording is there for anyone to hear it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for People Before Profit to text or tweet something at the moment saying Niall Boylan had a shit in his diaper when he was 2. You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of dirty tricks. I know that's going to be the headline in the paper tomorrow. Niall Boylan, European candidate, shit in his nappy when he was 2 and never told anybody.
I've heard it all and called.
Yeah, but so Melissa, getting back to the original question, I'm seeing a huge sea of change at the moment, and I think the timing for elections is really good at this particular time in June, because we're seeing, you know, the people are just not putting up with the nonsense that have been given at the moment. So, do you believe that when you vote for change, you get?
You see, I don't use that word change. We've heard that. We've heard the change, but they never explained what the change was. That was the Sinn Féin campaign. Vote for change. Next minute, the change was, you know, lock you all down, go for longer COVID, push the jabs.
Well, there was no change. Sinn Féin were the same as the government.
Well, what I want to say was they were worse than the government. They brought in, you know, pushing the abortion, the 3-day wait, the sex education, the trans ideology. They never told anyone in this country what the change was. Now, I think if we go back even to 2020, and if people of this country realised what the word change in the Sinn Féin manner was, it would have been and I did election Kilkenny Carlow in 2020. We actually had 40 nationalists stand at that time, and I think this time around people understand that the word change that Sinn Féin were using were not the change that the people of Ireland asked for or want. No. Now, I'm community development major. I have 37 years behind me working in the community, and I want to go back to that First Lady and what she spoke of.
Oh, this is Michelle at the very start,
Yes. And like I've said...
Just very quickly, Melissa, because I have about 10 more people to get to after you, but go on.
me every time now. Give me a minute.
Okay.
So I've worked in local council, and I've been in community development for over 37 years as a volunteer, and that funding money is not getting down to communities. It took me 12 years of my life to just get a playground in an area where there were 6,000 people. 12 years just to get a local playground. This is what we're up against down here. So we do need people of independence. And just to say, there's 723 MEPs out there. Ireland only has 13. But you will join with a pact when you get out there. The same as the local independents. Join as a pact. Like Richard O'Donoghue fell out of Fianna Fáil. Out today. I know Richard, I grew up with him. So give the independents the chance. Look at Karen Nolan. She was with Sinn Féin. She came out. They're a pact in themselves as independents. And we will do the same. Me, as a nationalist independent, we will work with all the others. And we form a pact within the councils, within Gangster House when we get them out of it. And, that's what's going to happen. So, that's not what it is at the moment, let's face it.
I was in Gangster House yesterday.
I just want to be very clear that you're saying, and this kind of bravada put out there, that independents are all different. No, we're not. I know.
I said there was commonalities, and there was a common goal, obviously. But we have seen situations where a lot of independents have been asked to come together, but they tend to fight a little bit about certain things that they may not agree on.
It's no different to the party just joined of independence, really, is it? Yeah. Only that we would like the whole thing of voting for the party is that none of them have their own voice. They have to go with the whip in every local council. And as I sat in council, and I remember certain Fianna Fáilers going, Melissa, I agree with you, but I'm going to have to vote against your motion because the whip, the head of Fianna Fáil here in Kilkenny Council, because every council have a whip, and they said no. So the rest of the 9 Fianna Fáilers had to go with the whip.
Well, then they don't have the balls to stand up for what they believe in, and that's the problem in this country. Melissa, I'm so short of time, but listen, I do wish you well in your own campaign, by the way, and I want to be fair to everybody today. Jason, hi, how are you?
Afternoon, Niall. How are you?
Good. Jason, thank you for joining us.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. Were you taken, by the way, were you taken by surprise? No,
not me. No, so I've been shouting at you for long now to run. And here, just one thing: do not go for Taoiseach. You'd be insufferable. But Jesus,
that'll be a long way away, Jason. That'll be a long way away.
That's good.
Anyway, Jason, who will you be voting for?
Oh, I'll be going with to be honest. Irish Freedom Party. I'm a member of them now.
Yep.
Or any independents. I'll be doing my votes that way. Anybody in the.
But you'll give me a number 2 vote, won't you? At least.
I'm not sure, because I'm in Westmead.
I know. I'm joking.
No, Jesus, Niall, if you were in my area, I'd have my whole family, and I come from a big family.
Yeah. Lorraine, and Lulu. Yeah.
Me, Lorraine, don't talk to me about that bleeding dog.
Anyway, Jason, but do you think voting for change, you're going to vote for the Irish Freedom Party, and I know Herman, and I know the lads, Michael Leahy, etc. I know them all.
Yeah.
Do you think voting for a change, and that's what people keep saying to me all the time, we're voting for change, we're voting for independence, we're voting for independent parties or newer parties or whatever it is. Do you think it actually makes a difference? Because we've been there before 5 years ago, and people voted for the change, but it never happened.
No, we didn't get the change. They were all shouting change. What they meant was, we're just going to change around after 2 years. You'll have me for this first 2 years, and you'll have him. I told you that now before the last election. They're going to get in by hook or by crook, them two. Them two parties will manipulate and bend the rules. We have a fella now who didn't even go to college, never had a job in his life, in his mid-40s, got in on his 15 count, and now he is telling us how to live our lives. I'm sorry. I'll take me moral compass and how I'm going to live my life off me now, because there's no way you can look up to them. Sinn Féin let us all down, and the videos that's going around now of her standing up the other day, I'm sure you've seen it. And I was out canvassing the weekend with the local fella in our area, and I was knocking on doors, and I was talking to people. And people are saying the same thing. They're changing this country too quick, too fast, and with not a boy or care for us. They're not even asking us. You're getting it whether you like it or not. We need to go back to the old ways, the EEC, where it was just, you look after each other, free trade between everybody, people can move around. But we need our laws being made back in our countries. If not, we need somebody over there that's actually going to look after our best interests.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're such a small little island. People seem to forget that. The government have painted us out that we're this big driving force in the world. We're not. We're the laughing boys for the simple reason they know no matter what rules or no matter what taxes they throw down, good old Paddy the Irishman will just do it because he wants to be in the big club, because he doesn't want his big neighbour picking on him anymore. And that's the mentality they're at the sown in the Irish people. We need to be part of this big club, because remember what happened the last time when the English came over? Oh, we can't have that again. I think the English done the right thing this time. I think they've done the right thing getting out, making their own rules. I mean, guess what? They're not taking back the people from this country that are coming in illegally, are they? Why? Because they don't have to now. They're not part of the Europe.
So you think voting change will make changes this time round? I think so, because I think a lot of people this time want change. And you know what? The change is not going to be Sinn Féin. Although if we were to believe the Sunday Business Post polls at the weekend, or the Irish Independent, I'm not too sure which it was, it kind of seems the same as it always looks, to be honest with you, which means I don't actually believe the polls anymore.
No, you can't after the last referendum. And it'll only change if every single person gets out and exercises their democratic right to vote. And it'll only change if we put our X's in the right boxes this time. This business of, that woman, if they're nice to me and they answered me email. We got one of that. Who are you voting for? Well, you are the first ones to knock on the door, so we're going to vote for you. That's the wrong way to run a country as well. Voting for somebody just because you like the cut or their jib, or because, he done you a good turn. Just because he's doing you a good turn, what's the turn he's doing for the country? And I think they've shown us now, they put themselves first and the country second, them people up in the madhouse. Come here, have you got an invitation off RTE3 yet to go on? Sorry, News Talk. Sorry, did I say RTE3? I meant News Talk.
Who did?
I said, did you get any invitations to go on talking, any of them?
Well, I was on News Talk yesterday. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't listen to it anymore. I went off. They really turned me off them.
No, I was on News Talk yesterday with Kieran Cuddy.
No,
he tried his best, by the way, to give me a grilling, which he would never do to anybody else, but I didn't mind. I was well able for him.
He's part of this. Everybody's either a guard or a nurse or a teacher. He's part of that society.
Oh, that's society. Okay.
Oh, God, yeah. We all know who they are. They're the special. They're the ones that the government are always aiming at. If a guard can't afford a house, as I said to you, Niall, a long time ago, they'll never fix this housing problem. There's too much money tied up in people's houses now in assets. Why would they build 21 houses if they only need 19?
I couldn't agree with you more. Listen, thank you very much indeed, Jason. Appreciate you coming on. Let me go to who's next. Morris, hi, how are you?
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Boylan. Can I have your autograph, please?
Yeah. I'll even let you take a photograph with me if you like.
I got that done before, actually, at one of the radio meetings now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I've met you many a time, Morris. Many a time.
You did.
Morris,
I got you a gold cake, and I got a bit of semolina. Do you remember?
I do indeed. I remember you get me the semolina. Or was it tapioca, actually, wasn't it?
Oh, tapioca and gold cake, yeah.
Morris, look, as well as thanking me, and I'm sure I'll have your vote. Do you believe that voting for change actually makes a change?
Yeah, because people have to stand up, and you're standing up. You put your head above the parapet. Say, listen, I've listened to it for long enough.
Yeah, Morris, your phone is really bad. I'm not too sure where you are there.
Sorry, is that any better?
Go ahead, put it back on. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, is that okay?
Oh, that's much better, Morris. Much better, Morris. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. You put your head up above the parapet and you're saying, look, I'm going to stand up and be counted.
I've given up my job, Morris. I've given up my job for it.
I know.
I'm on the dole.
I seen the interview yesterday, and you know what? That interview with Cuddihy should be sent to every radio training station in the country, every school for broadcasting, and say, this is how you don't treat a person coming on the show. That should be held up. And
well, by the way, I'm okay with him giving me a grilling. I just hope that he gives the same grilling to Maria Walsh when she comes on as a running European MEP, or any other person that comes on.
In all the years you've been on, you've never shouted anybody over them, or you've never shouted them down. He should be a professional. He did the most unprofessional interview I've ever seen and witnessed, and I'm glad that.
Well, he wouldn't let me answer. That was the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. He was shouting you down and shouting over you, and it's typical of the radio stations that think they're the next in line to be getting RTE cut the money. But I think you're gonna go on a tidal wave here, because you've hit the nail on the head. You're putting your head above. You're going to say, I want change. I wanted change the last time, but the three-headed snake stole the power from the people and said, you won't get what you want. We'll tell you what we're going to give you. And that's the only reason they're in power. They prop each other up. They get the big pensions. Leo's already walked away. He's abandoned ship. He was Taoiseach for nearly 7 or 8 years. He'll get another Enda Kenny, 300 million pension walk away. That's all they're interested in, putting their hand in the taxpayers' pockets. But if you could stand up and represent us in Europe and let us know how things are going over there and what they're doing.
Oh, you better answer your phone there, Morris.
Listen, anyway, best of luck.
Thanks, Morris. All right.
Your autograph.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, and I did say from the very start that I'd not only be an MEP in Europe, I would also continue to do the podcast. So I will report back, unlike the other European MEPs who disappear for 4.5 years and you never hear from them, they vote for all the wrong things. I will report back on my podcast every single week what I've done, what debates I was at, what plenaries I was at, what I voted for, what I'm about to vote for, to get your input when it comes to immigration. I certainly would have voted yes for the EU Migration Pact when it comes to housing or planning, when it comes to climate policy, when it comes to whatever it happens to be. I will be getting your permission as voters as to which way I should vote, because that's what real democracy is all about. And let me go to Madeline. Madeline, hi, how are you?
Hi, Niall. Delighted with your decision to run as an MEP, and delighted also to hear you were going to keep up your podcast, because I don't know what we would actually do without you.
Oh, this is it. Now, mind you, the podcast schedule might change a little bit. I might have to do it. Yeah.
Come here the way it is, Niall. You're after putting your money where your mouth is, and I'm very proud of you. And I won't only be voting for you, I've actually volunteered to canvass for you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed, Madeline. I'd really appreciate that.
No, I'm a very passionate person. I'm very passionate about the country, and I've heard that in your voice from the time I started coming to talk to you on the radio. So your honesty, you've given a platform there for people to debate either way. You never took sides. You've been open and honest, and I will definitely back you all the way.
All right, well, thank you very much, Madeline, and I will certainly take you up on that offer, because, and by the way, can I say, if there's anybody else in any part of Dublin, because obviously I'm running in Dublin, who thinks they can help, even if it's, on your own street to give out a few leaflets, please let me know and we'll get the leaflets to you. And also, if you want to, organise an event, or you are organising an event, just let me know and I'll come along to the event. I'm happy to do that.
I've already wrote in another person to canvass for you this morning. But I just want to say, apart from yourself, the likes of John McGurk and Grip Media, and only for them, get under the FOI, getting that information.
Absolutely.
On the
by the way, wasn't it incredible that no other media, apart from myself and Gript, obviously I follow the story because I will do a lot of stories that Gript will cover because we get on very well. But isn't it astonishing that no other mainstream media ran that story?
Again, I'll say it again, and I'm sure you're sick listening to me saying this. Since the scamdemic, nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to try hard to uncover the truth. People, I think an earlier speaker said it, people got so used to having money posted in the door, and the whole country has this post-apocalyptic feel and look to it. So, I mean, if it's going to take a couple of people who are open, honest and hard working and have the graw and the heart to put this country back on the map, I will definitely be behind it, because the government, they've turned our democracy, they've made a mockery of our democracy. It has been one corrupt debacle after another. The whole system, the hospitals, the schools, this woke agenda, the whole thing. And I will certainly be working hard to try and reverse things for my children and my grandchildren.
Does it work? I'm sorry for rushing through everybody today because so many people want to come on. But does it work, Madeline, when people say, I'm going to vote for change, and they vote for independence, or they vote for new parties or whatever? And we've seen that in the last election too. More so, I think, in this election, most likely in the locals, the Europeans, and the general election, probably the end of the year. Do you think voting for change makes a difference? Because it didn't make a bloody difference the last time.
Yeah, but you can't just say, these people said that, they're going to make change and I'm going to vote for change. You have to look at the person who's actually running. You have to see their record. You have to see, are they the person you want representing you? And at the moment, as you said, all our laws are coming down from Europe. We have nobody listening to us. We have nobody speaking for us. And
I think it's shocking, by the way. I've looked back at the records of the European MEPs over the last 4 years and the amount of debates they actually attend, which is, by the way, dismal. Can I just say dismal? With the exception of one or two, they're dismal. And they all go in, they just put their hands up and say yes to everything, Madeline.
They're just naughty dogs. And again, since scamdemic, politicians have disappeared and they're all coming out of the woodwork now when it comes up to elections. None of them have been doing absolutely anything. Another thing I want to say to you, you will live quite nicely on spuds and eggs for the next few years, Niall. I've done it. And 25
I mean,
years
that's
ago,
right. That's what I said to people. I've given up my job now since Monday was my last night on the radio because I had to give it up, which is a whole other thing that needs to be raised with the Commission of Man and BAI, because if I was genuinely on my knees financially, I'd be eating beans and toast by the end of the month because I'd have no job.
Come here, you will be, because I've done it. And can I just say, 25 years ago, I was approached by 2 different parties to run in local elections. And at the same time, I also had got a job with Dublin City Council. And I decided at the time, I was going into community development, that I could deliver a much better service to the people through doing my own job at the time. And I've retired 2 years now, but I know I left a brilliant legacy with the people I've worked with over the years.
And by the way, I think I've left a good legacy of 30 years on radio talking to people. So
you have, and that's why you're going to get our votes. And as your previous listeners have all said, you're going to walk this, Niall. You're going to walk.
Oh, thank you very much, Madeleine. Thank you very much.
I just hope Europe doesn't corrupt you.
No, I've been 30 years on the radio with threats to cancel me on so many different occasions, but it never shut me up before, Madeleine. So Europe would never corrupt me, trust me.
Well, I'm very excited to have somebody that has passion and heart and honesty and graw going into this. I'm very excited for you.
Madeleine, thank you very much, and thank you for your cooperation, and thank you very much for your for saying that you would volunteer to help, and I really appreciate it, and they will be on to you. Thank you very much indeed. Now let me go to Dave, and I have to go to Stephen as well. Dave, hi, how are you?
Sorry, Niall.
How are you doing?
Congratulations again.
Yeah. I didn't want the show to be all about me today, but it kind of is a little bit. But I wanted it to be about, does voting for change work?
Oh, you poor creator. People are patting you on the back. Must be the worst day you've ever had.
Dave, if you knew about my last 72 hours, I haven't actually slept in 72 hours.
Well, just do us all a favour and don't make a bollocks of it, all right?
Do you think I'll make a bollocks of it, Dave?
No, I don't think you will, and fucking hopefully not. Like, do you know what I mean? It'd actually be great to see you get in.
Thank you very much.
No, but genuinely, it'd be a nice kick in the fucking teeth, all these little establishment arseholes with their cronyism and their nepotism, to see like fucking, loudmouth Mr. Boylan coming off the radio and walking in. Do you know?
Yeah, well, mind you, I really miss the radio job, by the way, can I just say, because I really love it as well. And I've loved 30 years doing it, but I just think the time is right to do something different, in a sense that I want to be there to represent people, not just listen to them.
I know, hey, listen, fair play to you. Look, anybody who goes to do it, serious respect. It's not an easy thing to put yourself out there, because there's going to be any amount of arseholes that are going to be trying to pick you apart or talk shit about you. So you. Oh, I know.
I've been looking at the newspapers over the last. I probably shouldn't be, but I've never seen so many pieces about me in the newspapers. Even if I tried to get as much press, I could never do it. But I'm waiting for the headline, and as I said earlier, I'm waiting for the headline: Niall Boylan shit in his nappy and never told anybody when he was 2.
Yeah. Hey, I read the journal one about you. All right, you could nearly have fucking called it before you read it. But hey, there's no such thing as bad publicity,
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dave, do you believe voting for change makes a difference?
I'll be honest with you, lad. I've gone very cynical to the whole thing in recent times. If nothing else, I definitely think this is probably going to be one of the most interesting election cycles we've had, from local to national level, because I don't think people have been this riled up or pissed off since the last recession. And considering you kind of notice with people as well, after the last referendum, and everybody basically give it, a middle finger to the state. There's this kind of renewed sense of kind of vigor in people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's kind of shit. If we actually vote, our voices might be heard, and there might be a bit of change. So I'm hoping, I'm hopeful. At the very least, if it's mostly independents or new parties in the local elections, it might be enough of a slap in the face to the establishment parties to maybe at the very least let them know how out of touch they've become. I don't think it'll change that with them, but I mean, it'd be nice to see their feathers get ruffled for the first time in a while.
But I would have thought after the last referendum, their feathers were going to be ruffled. For example, Simon Harris, our new Taoiseach, you'd imagine his feathers would be a little bit ruffled, saying, well, okay, we've made a huge mistake. Look at the referendum. We were clear this was going to be a yes vote, and it was an overwhelming, record-breaking no vote. We got to rethink this. With the general election coming soon, we got to play to the people, because that's what politicians need to do as well. But the first thing he comes out with is, don't worry, I'm bringing in the hate speech bill before Christmas. A bill that he knows is extremely unpopular. And yet, it's almost like I'm trying to goad them.
No, but you see, to me, that stinks of, he probably knows after the next general election, there's a half-decent chance now that they might not be there. So he's probably like, well, look, we'll just railroad in this legislation now, get it in before the election, and at least, that way it's in. If we get in, it'll stay there. If somebody else gets in.
Well, here's my thinking. If I was their PR people, their spin people, I'd be saying, if you bring that in, another political party's going to say, vote for us and we'll get rid of it again.
No, that's true too. But at the same time, like Jason said as well, I mean, these guys should not be in power, but because of political jiggery pokery, they managed to get in by the skin of their teeth the last time. Because I don't think Sinn Féin realised how much people would have voted for him in the last election. So if they'd have fielded a lot more candidates, it might have been different. But now, there's not a hope in hell. Those people voted for Sinn Féin last time are more likely not going to vote for him the next time. They're not. I know people who have been lifelong Sinn Féin supporters basically said, if anybody from Sinn Féin comes to my house, they're going to be told swiftly to fuck off. So it'll be interesting. I don't think anybody's going to be able to call.
Okay, very quickly, who are you voting for, Dave?
Independent. I've always voted independent.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
My local guys are pretty good. So.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much indeed for that, and thank you very much indeed for your support as well. Let me go to Stephen as well. Stephen, hi, how are you?
I'm grand, thank you. And fair play to you for putting yourself forward. I think it's like a sign of the times that somebody like yourself who probably swore blind they'd never get into politics is deciding to get into politics.
I've been asked so many times over the years, Stephen, so many times, and I always said no.
Said, Niall for president and Niall for this and Niall for that, and so it's about time that that it says a lot if now is the time that you're choosing to put yourself in the ring.
Well, it's a big risk. I've just left a job. You know what I mean? A 30-year career.
Yeah, So it is a big risk, but I tip my hat.
Now here's the thing, Stephen. We don't agree on a lot of things, but we're very respectful of each other's views, right? So, but here's the thing: would you vote for me?
I would vote for you.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that.
Because, as you said, we can have civilized conversations. I think you're perfectly articulate and well able to have civilized conversations with other people of different points of view. And there's no more diverse place than the European Parliament. So
I can see a big change in the European Parliament this year because the poor dog needs water.
I know, yeah.
We are going to see a swing from the left, probably into the centre, to the right, maybe. And by the way, I hope not too far right, okay? But we are going to see a swing, which gives the European Parliament then a bit of balance. So the likes of the EU Migration Pact, which probably, and I know people on the left and the right who don't agree with it, by the way, things like that probably wouldn't have went through if we had some sort of centrist view in Europe.
Yeah, well, certainly not in its current iteration, and most of the laws would benefit from as you said, a broader perspective being put towards them, because all of this has to be compromised one way or another, And so I am slightly curious as to who or how somebody like Independent Ireland will align themselves in terms of the Parliament, whether they stick out on their own or go in with different blocks or move depending on the bill and things like that. So it all remains to be seen.
But see, the problem is, and I think Independence Ireland's biggest concern, obviously, is things like agriculture, our fisheries, which we gave away 25% of, agriculture, which is being destroyed at the moment by climate policy. And they will argue, it's not climate denial, that there has to be a fair climate policy, to treat farmers with respect, because they are the biggest producers of food. We've got now farmers in Ireland selling produce for below cost. That can't continue, So I think they just want a fair deal.
It's kind of always been a bit below cost because it's been backed up by the cap and so on.
Yeah.
Because, the amount of second milk protests and things like that.
Oh, I know. Sure, but you remember, I remember years ago back in the 80s, we had the thing called the Butter Mountain. Do you remember that?
I remember hearing of it, all right.
Yeah. The Butter Mountain. Yeah.
So, it's all of these things, and I think it'll be a good thing. So I haven't been able to tune in. The second Twitter wouldn't load just when I was trying to tune in, but the majority of people are saying that, it's the year of elections. We have the locals, the Europeans. We will most likely have a general election in this country. And then, most of Europe is going to the polls. Most of America is going to the polls. Russia went to the polls, if you could call it that.
So we're going to see a huge change in the world over the next 18 months.
There is a global dynamic change, all right. And as I said as well, I hope it doesn't go too far right.
Okay, absolutely, and I would be agreeing. I don't want to see anywhere too far left or too far right. But Stephen, in relation to who you'd be voting for, generally speaking, forget about the Europeans for the moment because you've just given me your vote. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, but who generally would you vote for? Would you vote for the main political parties, or would you vote for independents?
To be honest with you, and I've said it before, like my main intention is to consider some independence, but primarily vote slightly left of centre in terms of Labour, Social Democrats, and maybe a Green candidate locally.
But you're saying, but you don't what you said to me. You don't want to go too far left or too far right. Social Democrats are as far left as you can possibly go.
I don't think they're quite as far left as somebody like People Before Profit or so on. But and I've said it to several people, and I've probably said it to you several times, I don't see a candidate from one end of an election cycle to another in my particular area in Dublin Bay North. I haven't seen a candidate, and anyone that's come within kilometres of my house has been run out of it.
The problem nowadays is there's not as much door to door as there used to be. A lot of it's done online. It's done through the media nowadays. Now, don't get me wrong. Over the next 6 weeks, unfortunately, when you're an EU candidate, you can't visit every single house because there's over 1 million houses in Dublin. It's not like local elections, but you can try your best, and I will try my best to get to as many areas as I can over the next 6 weeks and try and fit everything in. That's why I haven't slept in 72 hours. So, but Stephen,
I know, so seriously, go and take a nap.
By the way, did you get your mug? By the way, we sent you.
I did get a mug. Thank you very much.
So I'm hoping you're having your breakfast every morning now, your coffee every morning. You'll think of me. There you go.
It's the perfect size for it. What was I going to say to you? Just in terms, because I see the Social Democrats at least are doing a lot of community events around different areas that I've been driving in Dublin. That's what people need to be doing. All politicians at every level need to be going back to the community events and having a bit where I can go and have a say to you. The same way as I'm going to do when I go to the RDS on Saturday.
Okay. Oh, are you going to the RDS on Saturday? Yeah.
I am. Yes.
Yeah, I'll be there.
I'll go and have a chat.
Yeah.
I'll see you there.
Okay. I look forward to meeting you, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed, and I appreciate you being on the air today. Let me go to Karen as well. Sorry, I need to get through 4 more people here before we finish today. We're going way over time. Karen, hi. How are you?
Hi, Niall. Big congratulations, and I hope you're successful in June. We do need change in this country, and if we don't, then we're just going to say to the government and Sinn Féin and Social Democrats and all the rest of them, okay, guys, just continue as normal because we don't care. So we do need change. If I was in Dublin, I would be voting for you. I'm not. I'm down south, and I'd be voting for Michael McNamara.
Okay, Michael's a great man. He's a really good man.
Yes, I have to stress as well, it's going to take us, the people, to get up off our backsides, get out and canvass for somebody for change. There's no point sitting at home and looking at Twitter and looking at the news and thinking, oh God, it would be great if we had change. We've got to get up. I even rang Michael McNamara's office. I'm a Tipperary woman, by the way, and I rang his office down in Ennis yesterday and I said, look, I'm from Tipperary. I'll be voting for Michael. I'm delighted he's running. If I can canvass, deliver leaflets around my area, I'm happy to do so. I've never met the man before in my life. He's not in my constituency, but that's what it's going to take. It's going to take for all of us to get up and come out together, because we have to send a message to the Uni Party and the NGO establishment and the media establishment, all of them together, and Europe, by the way. They only like the bureaucrats in Europe. They think they can do whatever the hell they bloody like and disregard the will of the people. So I think we have to come together to get out. You're the face in Dublin, so people need to come out and support you. If not, go and vote for Fianna Fáil, go and vote for Fine Gael and Sinn Féin, and let them just continue destroying the country like they have been doing for so long, for decade after decade. So we have to come together. I voted in the last election for Matty McGrath, by the way, the general election, and independent. Now, before that, I voted Sinn Féin.
Yeah.
But after what Sinn Féin done, I said no more. And I voted for... In fact, like if I'm to look at my voting record over the last 20-odd years, I voted for all parties, actually. Like that, you always hope with each candidate. Some of them I would have known personally, so I kind of went with that vote. Now I'll be voting with my head. And right now, we definitely need change.
Well, I would encourage people to do exactly what you did, Karen. More than just vote for somebody. If you have a passion for change, I would say to get in contact.
Like when I was looking,
just get in contact with your local candidates, be it the European candidates or the local candidates, and tell them you'll canvass. Yeah, you'll volunteer.
Yeah. Because look at the referendums in March. Look at them. I mean, if you looked at the opinion polls, it was like, for me it was like voter suppression, because we're doomed. It's going to go through. What's the point of getting out and voting? But I went out and I spoke on the back of that. I went out and I spoke to so many people, strangers on the streets. By the way, I'm not affiliated to any party. I'm not a member of any NGO or organisation or anything like that. And I just went out, everywhere I went. I met in my business, in the local post office, in the supermarket, on the streets, socially, no matter where I was. I spoke to so many people. And it was amazing the amount of people who were no. It's like, well, what the hell, where are all these opinions polls?
Yeah, where's all these yes people? I had the same problem, Karen, on the podcast. I'm the same in the radio. I couldn't find people to come on the air to say yes. I don't know where they were.
Yeah, I remember you begged, and then I swear to God, on the Saturday morning, I think it was a Gavin O'Reilly around just after 10 o'clock, called the no, and tears come down out of my eyes because I said, at least the country is waking up. Because if we,
I'd say tears come down Gavin Riley's eyes, to be honest with you as well. I think he was probably hoping for a yes vote. I don't know, maybe he was.
Yes, exactly. But that Saturday morning, I could not believe it. And I was absolutely delighted, and I said to myself, right, we need change, but it looks like. that signal, that message did not ring through the government buildings, or else the spin doctors that Harris took in with him have convinced him, no, disregard that. No, people will vote differently. Because now they want to proceed with the hate speech, the migration pact, the whole works. They've not listened to the people. So now we need to send a stronger message, June the 7th, locally and European.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you. I'm running out of time, but thank you very much indeed, Karen. And I appreciate the fact that you're going to help your local candidates by canvassing. It's a really good idea. By the way, don't forget, as you know, I'm running for Europe. If you want to help or you want to canvass in your local area in Dublin, we will supply you with all the posters that you need. We will supply you with all the leaflets that you need. All you got to do is send us a message at 085 100 55 on WhatsApp. That's 085 100 55. Or indeed go to the website. And the website is niallboylanforeurope.com or .ie, should I say. niallboylanforeurope.ie. Let me go to Stephen. Stephen, hi, how are you? Oh, there you go. Hi, Stephen.
How are we doing, Niall? I presume it's this Stephen, is it?
Yes, it is. We've loads of Stephens. I have another Stephen to go for after you as well. So Stephen, do you believe voting for change makes a difference?
It absolutely does. We've seen that with the referendum. Even if there was some shenanigans with voting or whatever it is, there's never been as much belief in the country as there is now in politics. Therefore, I would say to people, absolutely get out there and use this chance while the iron is hot. And I'm going to tell people from all political persuasions to do this. I think it's going to take a push from right and left to get this monster out of our lives for good. Mm-hmm. That's FFG, Sinn Féin too, but let's be fair, they're not in the cabinet. This cabinet needs to be, we need to take a flamethrower to this thing and get rid of it. FFG out.
Obviously not in a literal sense. Not
a literal sense, no, figuratively.
Yes. Just in case anybody suggests that I'm condoning some sort of violence. But Stephen, I've seen in the past, we vote for change, our party saying, vote for us, vote for change. And, people vote for them. And we've seen in the last election with Sinn Féin. And then the same bunch get back in again. So people feel a bit, I suppose, despondent by the whole thing now at this stage.
I don't think that is the same level of despondency as the last election was a huge disappointment. There was a huge rush of support for Sinn Féin that ended with nothing.
But imagine if it had won. Imagine if Sinn Féin had got into government. Should they turned out as an opposition to be worse than the government?
Yeah, they were absolutely the same. It was just someone copied and pasted Fine Gael and thrown a little bit more Irish language onto it. I think that's all it is. But if you look at the amount of people stepping forward now, Niall, that are completely different than what all of these people were. We've got, really strong-willed, loose cannons out there now. I'm not saying vote a lunatic into the government, but
no, vote for me. By the way, they can vote for me if they want to.
Vote for someone that absolutely refuses to bend to this government's will. Have a look back over the past 4 years and look at the people who refuse to stand down and fight, and those are the people you vote for. I'm thinking of running myself, Niall, to be honest.
Where are you running? Which area?
North Kilkenny.
Okay,
North
for the local elections. Yeah. Okay, good man.
Yeah, and it'll be possibly with the Irish people. It's another kind of an independent exchange party, like the Independent Ireland, but we're more activist orientated.
Yeah.
With people that have been out in the streets flat out for the last few years, we're throwing our cap in the ring as well.
Good man.
So, I will encourage people, just get out there and vote different. Don't give these four main parties.
So when are you going to announce that you're running Or have you done it?
Well, I'm seeing if it's possible because I'm late in the door, Niall.
Yeah, well, you need to hurry yourself up there. When does it close? It closes, I think, very soon. The opportunity
it's
to register.
the fourth week before they go to the polls.
Yeah, okay.
Is when it closes. So it'll be sometime before that if I can.
Okay.
But I would encourage people just to vote different. If you voted for someone in a suit with a turkey smile, fuck him in the bin. Give Niall Boylan your vote. Give Malachy Steenson your vote. Philip Dwyer's of the world. Give your vote to someone different and see what happens.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Stephen. I really appreciate it. Let me just go to another Stephen. Stephen, hi.
Hi, Niall.
Your third Stephen in a row. Third Stephen in a row, but like it's a popular name.
I know. And every time I'd be going, oh, right, it's me. Congratulations.
Thank you,
Fantastic
Stephen.
News. Really fantastic. Unfortunately, actually, I'm way down in Bantry, that direction. And I've actually just looked up and I've been trying to find local election councillors and people for the EU election. And do you know something? All I get is the major political parties that are in the Dáil. There's nothing.
Michael McNamara.
Apart from maybe a line.
Michael McNamara is running in your area as an EU MEP, or should I say, for Europe as an MEP. So if you want to vote for him, I think he's a good man. It's entirely up to you.
I'll be voting that direction anyway, because the last lot, as you said, they go for a holiday, disappear, and then come back. It is a bit of a joke. We actually do. Every person has to stand up and say, we're taking no more of this crap. Because I was down, as I said, in Bantry there. I was actually talking, as I was standing in the queue to get my groceries, and there was pensioners lifting tins out of their food that we can't afford this. And, that's how bad the country's become. Repack basically is another green agenda. But I was just, we have an axis of power, and, or as I call it, the axis of evil. They're in power at the minute. We have an opposition that actually would happily join it and make it an axis of 6 or 7. And for anybody to think the Social Democrats are actually Democrats, have to be living in cloud cuckoo land. The fortunate thing is I'm so far down it, we will not get a Green candidate, a Social Democrat, or anything like that coming out, because they've been bloody lynched, and that's only by the local.
They wouldn't be very popular in your area, is what you're trying to say to me. Absolutely. Okay, so Stephen, you're going to vote for. I'm recommending Michael McNamara for you in the south for Europe.
I'll be going. I'll be going that direction. In the locals, it will be independents.
Okay.
And I'll be quizzing them on what their stance is. And if a Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, I'll be saying, what is your party's stance on immigration, and all the things that matter, and see if actually one of them defends it. They'll just be shown the gate.
Oh, they'll tell you how wonderful the EU Migration Pact is. That's what they'll do.
But and I know that the laws are already there. The
Absolutely.
EU Immigration Pact is a total and utter farce, a waste of time.
But no, to be honest with you, all it is handing control to Europe, so then they control our immigration policy, our borders, and our sovereignty. It's disgusting, actually.
I was actually looking at. I got, I saw an advertisement from Fianna Fáil, blah blah blah, supporting the formation of 1916, how we've been behind Irish independence. The bastards in the last 40 or 50 years have handed over independence.
Oh, they did. They've handed over a lot of our laws to Europe, and let's not hand over any more, as Malachy Steenson rightly said as well. Let's try and get the ones that we had, let's get them back. Because if you look at the situation at the moment, one of the big news stories, sorry, thank you for that, Stephen. One of the big news stories at the moment, of course, is 80% of those who are coming into the country currently at the moment are coming from the United Kingdom. Now, because it's going to get worse, because, of course, the United Kingdom are now going to start deporting people to Rwanda. So now the United Kingdom is not considered to be a safe country. And I only heard Micheál Martin talking about this yesterday. So that when people do come through Northern Ireland, 80% of the refugees and asylum seekers that are coming here, we will not be able to return them to the United Kingdom. So we need to stop them getting here in the first place if they are coming as economic migrants and not as official asylum seekers or don't follow the criteria of asylum seeker. We need to do something about it right now, not wait 3 or 4 years before they implement their EU migration pact, which is a load of shite in the first place. We don't actually need an EU migration pact. They'll talk about how wonderful the EU migration pact is because, look, we can set up reception centres at Dublin Airport and process people quicker. You can do that right now. The laws that we have currently in this country are quite robust when it comes to immigration. We could actually do that right now. And if the laws are not good enough, change the laws. We could change the laws during COVID because it was considered to be an emergency or crisis. This is a crisis. It's a housing crisis. It's an immigration crisis. We could change the laws. We need to help people who need to be helped. Absolutely. We have a wonderful, diverse nation. We have people who come here to the legal channels, of course, and work in our country from all over the world. And we welcome that. But we cannot continue to let it be open season and let just anybody wander into the country from anywhere in the world, no matter if they have a criminal record or if they're just a person coming here for a better life. That's just not the way it works. We have a duty to our citizens to protect our borders. The number is 085 100 22 55 if you want to text or WhatsApp in. Let me go to Angela. Angela, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, Angela. It's been an interesting 72 hours, I have to say.
I'd say so, and I'm going to say something here.
What are you going to say?
And you know what?
Is it going to be bad?
This will show the lick arse that Angela is, right?
Oh, okay,
yeah?
Angela.
You ready?
Yeah.
I would personally like to thank Karen. For being there with you and for being the woman you have always wanted and needed, and for her being there by your side. She's not in front of you. She's not behind you. She is always beside you.
She walked out of the doll holding my hand yesterday, by the way. Can I point
out? Oh, wow!
Yes. She is the most supportive, amazing, wonderful person or wife that I could ever ask for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And makes me sick, but that's
it makes you sick. I love her to bits.
But no. You know what? Anytime I chat, I just love her, and she's so soft-spoken, and she's just. It's like she doesn't have a bad bone in her body.
No.
Do you know what I mean? There's no badness in her. There's no malice in her. There's no hate. There's nothing. Everything is positive. And I know.
Well, neither one of us have slept in 72 hours because she's been such a wonderful support and helped me, as well as all the staff that are helping me as well. By the way, when I say staff, the people from Independent Ireland. But Angela, listen, it's going to be an interesting time ahead. We've 6 weeks to go. I'm running out of time here rapidly. 6 weeks to go. And it's going to be a long campaign. Hopefully we get lots of newspaper coverage. Hopefully get lots of volunteers that are going to help us as well. But who are you going to be voting for? Apart from voting, if you could vote for me, you would, but you're not living in Dublin.
If I could vote for you, I'd try and
you could relocate
fraudulent things and come up and go in and out with different disguises. Hi, it's me again.
Can I just say, in case anyone from a legal point of view is listening, she's joking.
I am joking. I am totally joking. You didn't get in just because of me. But I'm voting independent all the way. I'm sick to my teeth of it. And you know what? I'm sick to my teeth of, sure, get Sinn Féin and they'll change it. No, they feckin' won't. You know, they won't change anything because they don't get... do you know what I mean? They're talking out of their arses like. They're absolutely the worst opposition. They're, and like I actually thought it after everything that's gone on, especially in the past couple of years with the hospitals, right? And I thought, now this is me and my own opinion, I thought how fucking dare Mary Lou McDonald sit there yesterday and mention a beautiful young girl, Aoife Johnson, because I know Aoife's family. And how dare she stand up there? Where was she a couple of years ago when Aoife died? Where was she then? Don't turn around and use her case now. Don't throw it at Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil what's gone on. You weren't there in the past couple of years. Now that everything's gone fecked up, they're talking out through their holes about bringing everything. No, you can all feck off and everyone should vote independent. That's it. Let's get change. Let's get people in there that are actually going to listen to the country.
Thank you very much indeed, Angela. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your kind words too in relation to Karen. I'm sure she'd be delighted now as well. Morris, hi.
Hi, Niall.
How you doing? I'm sorry I'm stuck for time, and I'm sorry I'm rushing everybody. I apologise sincerely. But go ahead, Morris.
Yeah, in my opinion, in relation to the council, my own area in Waterford, I don't think much will change. People still vote for the fellas, even if they're Fine Gael Fianna as long as they vote, as long as they do the potholes or whatever it is. But people will save their anger for the European elections. People will have a lot of anger in relation to the general election, and you'll see a lot of changes. And like, for instance, if I was a betting person, which I'm not, I think you'll definitely get in. I think like Barry Andrews will be getting his P45, and a few others will be getting it. You'll have to go figure what he'll be doing next.
Well, according to Boyle Sports, I seem to be doing very well. If I was a betting man, I'd be down there putting a bet on myself.
And also another big issue in relation to the farming community is the derogation, and the government isn't standing up in relation to Europe, because that requires all the other European countries to allow Ireland to retain its derogation. So if we don't retain our derogation, you'll see a lot of cow culling going on in the dairy herd, for instance, because a lot of people are fairly well stocked. And that will have a big implication in relation to jobs, in relation to the creameries and the local economies in those particular areas, in particular my own area. Another thing is the hate speech thing. They're going to keep ramming that through. So a lot of people will be very angry over that. In relation to the Migration Pact, that could be stopped. Hopefully you'll get on to our Independent Ireland. I was talking to Michael Fitzmaurice, actually. And I was saying to him, for instance, if we brought forward some of the High Court injunction against the government, because we're ceding power without a referendum, and that's, in my opinion, that's technically illegal, constitutionally illegal, because if you look at Maastricht, if you look at Nice, if you look at Lisbon, they all required a referendum of a vote.
I think everybody should demand, by the way, that the Houses of the Oireachtas pass this over to the President for a referendum, what they call what's it called again? An ordinary referendum is what it's called by law. And the President can call an ordinary referendum on something that's non-constitutional. And I think in this particular occasion, every TD and every senator should demand that it's sent over to the President for him to make his decision under his discretion, which he will, to have an ordinary referendum in relation to the Migration Pact. Firstly, by the way, we shouldn't be at this point, Morris, because the woke MEPs that we sent over there in the first place shouldn't have voted for it. They've caused this problem.
They did cause it, and each one of them, they just vote whatever the government wants them to vote on a particular issue. They vote without questioning it. And if you look at it in relation to Helen McEntee, for instance, she's not even doing her job. Like, for instance, if you look at Denmark, for instance, they're doing they're handling their whole migration policy now completely different, and they don't even have the same loopholes that we were given, same way with the UK until the UK left the EU in relation to the opt-in, opt-out. And, I constantly hear this thing about, we have a moral obligation. I don't understand this moral. So we don't have a moral obligation about the 400 rough sleepers in Dublin. We don't have a moral obligation in relation to the 14,000 people in temporary accommodation. When people see the NGOs getting the equivalent of nearly 7 billion, roughly speaking, every year, it's a quangos run up by people who failed politicians like Ivana Bacik up until recently, getting probably several hundred thousand.
I mean, I want to say about the NGOs, because this is brought up all the time, and you are right that the figure now is closer to 7 billion than it was. I know a lot of people quote the 6 billion figure, but that was
6.8.
But there's 36,000 NGOs, and can I just say, a lot of them do a really good job. There is some good NGOs out there, but they need to be all audited. They need to be all questioned as to whether they need to be there in the first place. And the ones that have skin in the game, so to speak, and we're seeing that more recently, particularly those in relation to immigration, housing. Housing has become an industry in this country. Accommodation has become an industry. Those with skin in the game, need to be defunded.
85% of people who should be deported aren't being deported, and they're fighting through the courts.
It's actually more than that. The figure is more than that, Morris. Now we heard we heard yesterday from Michael McNamara, who made really good points and had all his figures and all his ducks in the row. And you can clearly see that the Minister for Justice, Helen McEntee, and the Department of Justice have no clue what's going on. No clue.
Like if they don't even take fingerprints. Well, what they do is
they do take fingerprints, but they don't check them against any criminal background database.
they put it through whatever system, but they don't keep it. Like, for instance,
No, but they're not checked. Those fingerprints are not. There was on the documentary there 2 weeks ago on TV3. It was suggested that, unlike regular citizens of Ireland, more due diligence is done on people who come into this country. That's completely untrue. They take their fingerprints, but they're not checked for a criminal background. They're just checked to see do they enter another country in Europe. That's all they check for.
And also, what about, there should be an inquiry once there's another general election. I would be demanding, if I was a TD, I would be demanding an inquiry in relation to that redacted document in relation to that internal part of the Department
the referendum.
of Justice. In relation to durable relationships. So these basically, the government basically asked the section that deals with it within the Department of Justice, how would it affect our ability to control migration? And they said it would greatly undermine the whole concept.
The legislation, yeah.
Yeah, it could have quadrupled the amount of people.
And the government never gave that information. If it wasn't for Grip Media getting that information, the government would have never gave us that information during the referendum, because they knew by giving that information that it was going to be a no vote. Well, look, it turned out to be a no vote anyway. Morris, I've run out of time, unfortunately. Morris, thank you very much indeed. Let me just go to Norman very quickly before I finish. Norman, hi, how are you?
Hello, Niall. How are things?
Jeez, I'm the longest podcast I've ever done here during the day. Go on.
I believe congratulations are in order.
Thank you, Norman. So I'm told.
Well
yeah.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
It's great to see somebody else for a change instead of the usual
suspects.
Criminal.
Yeah.
Suspects. Sorry, I didn't say criminals. But, yeah. But just go back on that other point that the last caller was making. Denmark took in 35,000 Ukrainians and capped it at that. And they said that we're not taking any more in. And Ireland has the same right to do the same thing. Yet they didn't do it. They took 120,000. They gave them more rights than our own citizens even enjoy.
Mm.
And then they wonder why the far right, or so-called far right, are getting momentum.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said so-called far right, because anybody, by the way, has a different view to the government as far right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know people who are quite left-wing and wanted to demonstrate in some of the demonstrations in town, but were afraid of being labelled far right, so they didn't go in. That's how democratic we are.
And do you think voting for change makes a difference?
I've always been. I'm quite sceptical and cynical. Unfortunately, nothing has changed in the last 20, 30 years. I was very, very, very pro-Europe until recently. And now, if they came with an election saying to vote in or out of Europe, I'd vote out of Europe. I'm fed up with all these clowns, these von der Leyen, and I don't know, the European. This thing about the immigration, this has been coming down the road for years.
Mm.
You know, the NATO started a lot of these wars in Libya and other countries. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they go over to Italy and over to Greece, and what are they supposed to do? You know. They did nothing. They could have tackled this 10, 20 years ago or 15 years ago. That war in Syria has been going on for a long time. But they did nothing. And now suddenly they want to do something. And then giving out with the far right, or the so-called far right. A lot of people in Europe are fed up with this. You know, Denmark is the same. I know people in Denmark and Germany, Holland. They're just fed up with this.
We're going to see a huge, sorry Norm for cutting you short, but we're going to see a huge change, I think, this year when it comes to local elections in every country, by the way. You've got the American elections coming, you've got the European elections here, you've got the general election before the end of the year, you've got elections in Britain before the end of the year as well, most likely. So we're going to see huge changes all over Europe, all over the world. And my prediction, which is the same prediction as most people at this stage, is that we're going to see a swing from the left into the centre or the right. And it would be nice to see it go to the right for a short period of time, not the far right, by the way, or the extreme right, so we can bring it all back to the centre again. Because that's the way people like to live their lives, generally speaking, is in the centre, where we all have a balanced view of things, where we're all allowed to critically think, where we're all allowed to disagree every now and again. Without the suggestion, by the way, that if you have an opinion online, that you might end up in jail or be prosecuted under the hate speech laws. What a ridiculous piece of legislation. Let me have a listen to one or two of your WhatsApp messages. Let me just play these. Thanks very much. Here's another one for you. Okay, sorry about that. I unfortunately didn't hear that.
Agenda, Niall Boylan. The blue shirts hate your guts. Gone to Brussels to restore some confidence.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Sean. Sorry, we missed the first part. For some reason, I had the volume down. Thank you, Sean, for sending that in to us. And thank you very much indeed, Neil, as well, for sending in your message there too. Lots of messages, by the way, coming in online. Sorry you didn't hear the first part of it. I do apologise. I'm going independent for sure, so somebody doesn't make a difference. Probably not, but maybe give the establishment a fright and let's see their numbers drop. That's a good idea. Somebody else says, Paul Lambert says independence in smaller parties. Paul O'Connor says ain't you in independent Ireland. Neve says I'll be voting to send the cabinet a non-yes, a non-best boy girl politician to the EU. I'm south of Ireland for that. Local, well, for any Fianna Fáil, Labour, Soc Dem, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin will not be getting a vote. Geraldine says number one vote for you, Niall. We need more people like you in government. Lots are saying they're going to vote for you, Niall. Yeah, by the way, thanks very much. Somebody sent in a message earlier on to say they were at a funeral. And the family seemingly mentioned my name and told people in the church to vote for me, which is really nice, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed. And by the way, in relation to voting, it's very important now. We're getting to a crucial time. It's only 40 days away. You need to check the register. Make sure you are registered to vote, not just in the local elections, but in the European elections. You can check the register.ie. So go to the website, checktheregister.ie. You can put in your name and your PPS number or your name and date of birth, I think. I'm not too sure, but it gives you a few options. And you can check to make sure your name is down to vote. So please do it. Checktheregister.ie. Before we get to the voting stage, what we will do is we will bring on an expert, because a lot of people are saying, now, I'm a bit unclear on how to vote. Do I vote for like 1, 2, 3, 4? Or do I vote for everybody or whatever it is? But in saying that, we will get an expert on over the next few weeks to tell you exactly the best way to vote. Not the best people to vote for. That's just me. The best way to vote. Thank you once again to everybody. We were inundated. This is the longest we have run the podcast. And that was because so many people wanted to come on and talk about voting in general, not just me. But I knew this would happen today because obviously I announced it the other day, and this is the first live show we've had since I announced it the day before yesterday. Yesterday was a recorded show. Thank you to everybody for all your wonderful, wonderful texts, tweets, Facebook messages, private messages on Twitter that you've sent me. I do apologise I can't reply to everybody. It would be impossible. But I'm trying to like as many as I can. I'm trying to thank as many people privately if they send me messages as I can. I don't get to everybody. So thank you very much indeed. As I said already, it's a huge risk. I've given up my job, a 30-year career, because I feel it's the right thing to do now. I want to be part of that change. I want to be there for the people of Dublin and the people of Ireland. I can't represent you in Cork, Limerick, in Galway and everywhere else. You'll have your own representation over there. And I would urge you as well, by the way, to vote for those you feel will do the right thing for you in Europe. Don't vote for the wokies. Michael McNamara down the south, a great vote. Ciara Mullooly, of course, in the west of Ireland, a great vote for Europe. And then your locals as well, consider, obviously I run with Independent Ireland, so consider all of their candidates. They have some wonderful candidates all over the country, but there are many other candidates for other parties as well that you can vote for. And I want to be fair and say that, and independents that are around there too. Thank you very much indeed to everybody. And I would say for me, don't forget, if you've already got a candidate in mind for Europe and it's not me, even give me your second vote. That will do me fine, second preference. But I would love your first preference vote. I'll be telling you more about it over the next 4 weeks or so, or 5 weeks. We've got 40 days up to the election now at this stage, so we've got a good bit to go. So I'll be telling you all about it. And the most important thing is, by the way, as Karen said earlier on, is not just if you have great passion in somebody and you feel somebody's the right person for the job, offer to help. Because, of course, we can never canvass too much. And we can never get that message out to everybody, particularly with the European elections, to get that message out to everybody across Dublin. It's okay with a local election. You just have to canvass in your local area to a couple of thousand houses or a few thousand houses, whatever it is. But with a European election, of course, you've got 1 million households in Dublin, roughly. You've got to get out to all of those. I couldn't possibly do that. We couldn't possibly do that. So we need to get that message across. So if you are living in Dublin and you're listening and you feel you can help, just to even give a few leaflets out in your road, your housing estate, your local event, or you want me to go to your local event, if you're having a big event and you want me to head along to it, I'll happily go and I'll help you give out some of those leaflets. I'll do that. I'm going to be very busy over the next 6 weeks. I don't mind. But let me know, and do that by WhatsApping 085 122 55. That's 085 122 55. Or indeed, by the way, you can go to our website and you can register there. You'll see there how you can help. The website, by the way, is niallboylanforeurope.ie. That's niallboylanforeurope.ie. Don't be worrying, by the way. We won't be focusing the podcast all about me for the next 6 weeks on the elections, but we will be talking about it every now and again. We will be doing all our usual topics and covering all our usual news stories. So please do support the podcast. We need your donations. We do need your help all of the time, more so than ever now, because as I've told you before, the podcast doesn't pay for itself. I have to put my hand in my pocket every single month. We don't get paid for doing it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to put my hand in my pocket next month because I have no job. I'm currently unemployed, apart from this podcast. I've had to give up my job to run for election. And that's how passionate I am about it. But I'm willing to do it. I'll be on the beans and chips by the end of the month, but I'm willing to do it. Listen, thank you very much indeed to everyone who got involved. I appreciate it. We shall talk to you again tomorrow at the usual time. And I'll tell you why tomorrow, because I have an interesting story that I want to cover about Newtown Mount Kennedy. And I'll be talking to Grip Media about that tomorrow. So please make sure you join us again tomorrow for the podcast, even though we don't normally do it on a Friday. Now, I got to press this button. Have a great day.
The multi-award-winning Niall Boylan Podcast. Listen live on Facebook, YouTube, and all the usual live stream services. To get in touch, just WhatsApp or text 085 100 2255. The Niall Boylan Podcast. They told me to shut up. Available for download from all your usual platforms.